Alright, I'm back with another Destiny 2 video. You may or may not have seen that I published a pretty lengthy article after talking to some more sources about everything that happened at Bungie, including how the layoffs went down, news about Final Shape, and some more general things about Destiny as a whole. I'm not going to go recap that whole thing for this video. I wanted to focus on something a little more specific, but you are free to go read it. I'll put a link in and you can go to Twitter or whatever. I wanted to talk about kind of one consistent theme that came up through not just this conversation, but also, we had the message from Bungie yesterday, which was very focused on the Final Shape and how the Final Shape will deliver, and they're holding it to this really high standard. What they said publicly was, they listed Taken King, Forsaken, and Witch Queen as like the standard they want to hit. I was told that they're trying to get it even above that. They are trying to make it the best expansion they've ever done. I heard early positive feedback about it, that it is, really solid in terms of its fundamentals, in terms of playtesting and whatever. But they are doing the delay, which they have not yet confirmed, in order to really polish, really make it shine, take it from it's good to it's fantastic, and they have a lot riding on it. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, because what I've come away with is I feel like there is way too much riding on the Final Shape. And even if it does deliver, the situation that's been set up now is really, really difficult, especially with the delay, especially with kind of what this Final Shape is, which is the conclusion of this saga. So obviously, if the Final Shape was bad and did not live up to, the expectations of these other classic expansions, that would be an utter disaster. But I think we have to wonder what happens even if the Final Shape is really good. Because the way things are right now, if this is a 4-ish month delay, Season 23, which starts in a month, is going to be 6 to 7 months long, something like that. And while that has not happened, or that has happened in the past a couple of times with extended seasons, this is a different situation because this delay is happening later in the process. I was told that it was known about by at least some people a couple of months ago. I'm not sure if it was before or after the showcase, but it's something that's been bandied about for a while now. And that means it is too late to create something like some big 30th anniversary content in the middle of the season. That is something that has to be planned way in advance. I think it took 8 months to make the 30th anniversary content, which was the dungeon and Dares of Eternity and stuff. And, I think that landed pretty well, but there's not going to be that. That's not going to exist. I was told that there's going to be something in that gap to, re-engage players to some extent, but it is not going to be as substantive as what they did with the 30th anniversary stuff. I don't know any more details past that other than there's going to be something put there. But that means, in this period of revenue misses and lower player enthusiasm and engagement, it is difficult to see how that does not get exponentially worse through a 6-7 month season that, the storyline will presumably end, a month and a half, 2 months into the season. And then what happened with the Witch Queen is they delayed the true ending of the story for like 6 months, and then we got that right before Witch Queen launched with the whole Savathun Resurrection mission, which was there for a week. And that might happen again in this case, but the point is there's like a yawning gap of time, and it's hard for me not to see a bunch of fall off from that kind of blank period, kind of making things even worse heading into the Final Shape. And we already know from past information that Final Shape pre-orders are not great. And we've heard, at least anecdotally, everyone mad about all this stuff that's currently happening or disappointed. A lot of people are canceling their pre-orders. I doubt as time goes on, pre-orders are going to go down fully, but they already don't appear to be where Bungie wants them to be. And that is after the showcase, before this delay. And it is hard to see how the rates or, increases to the way they want before this. So those are the challenges I think are leading up to the release of the Final Shape. But then we have to circle around to after the Final Shape, because again, I'm going to give the Final Shape the benefit of the doubt and say that it is going to be very good and they're going to deliver. I don't have proof of that. That's just for the sake of this thought exercise. The problem with the final shape is that it's an ending. It is an ending to a multi-year Light and Darkness saga. They say it started with Shadowkeep. It started with Destiny 1. Obviously, you know, it's the Traveler versus the Darkness saga. And yeah, they invented the Witness later to be the Darkness, essentially. But this is essentially the entire storyline of Destiny, to a certain extent, is ending with this. So one other common thing you hear is that people are saying, like, yeah, I'll play the final shape, but then, like, I'm done. And I do see like a lot of drop off happening after the final shape, even if it's good. We know that they have laid out this episodic model, which is supposed to be a variant of the seasonal model, in which there are longer, more substantive seasons, but they are individual kind of standalone stories that do not have to be played in order. There's not some sort of through line narrative between them. And well, I know people are tired of the seasonal model in the traditional sense. I'm not sure if just moving to a longer standalone mini story model after the final shape is going to produce a bunch of, you know, a surge in players. I still think they are going to lose a lot of players after the final shape, even if it is pretty good. Like, because it's just such a hard ending point for a specific thing. You almost can't help but assume a lot of players are just going to move on, instead of like, oh, I wonder what this story about the Scorn is going to be for 4 months or whatever. Like, maybe those are good too. It's just a matter of, is that something that's going to re-engage disengaged players? Is that something that's going to bring on new players? That seems like a little bit of a tall order to me. And this is assuming the final shape is good. If it's bad and we have another Lightfall situation, then it's a disaster. It's a total disaster. And then past that, we don't know. I've talked before about how my theory was always, they would keep doing expansions. They would do maybe now episodes in between them, and then maybe we get a Destiny 3 at the next console generation. I did not learn anything about what's coming past the episodes. I'm not sure everyone fully knows at this point. And I did not get the sense that like Destiny 3 is on the radar. I mean, I'm not talking to the highest level, you know, Luke Smith type people orchestrating all this, but I didn't get the sense that like Destiny 3 is anywhere close to being a reality at this point. So I'm just concerned about the way the final shape is being positioned in the grand scheme of both, you know, Destiny and then the current problems that they are enduring. The short term, this new, you know, the 6-7 months until the DLC comes out now, it's hard for me to see that is going to be anything but further losses. As we've seen, it doesn't really matter if the season is good at this point. They're like, the Season of the Witch is a very good season. I would say it's in a vacuum, a top 3 Destiny season, but that has not stopped, you know, the overall narrative, the overall drops from, you know, that started with Lightfall. So even if Season 23 is also good, I don't know if that's enough to move the needle. And then if it is good, it's still going to have this pretty, you know, tapered off ending point where we're just going to slide into these bonus months that don't have all that much to them. We've seen this before. I think it was Arrivals was the season that got extended, which Arrivals itself was a very good season, but, you know, lasting that long and without some big 30th anniversary thing. I think looking at like the Destiny heat map, that's like one of the periods I was playing the least, because I mean, there was not really anything to do. Like, you know, the Arrivals was a really, really good season, but at extended that long, any season can just dry up completely. And leading into, you know, your big new expansion, that's not really what you want to see. And I think 30th Anniversary did a good job of bridging that gap. It felt like something substantive without like needing to be a fully new season. It was something at least engaging. The Dares of Eternity, I still think, is one of the best activities they've done. Very good that it's free now. The reward pool could use some reworks, but generally speaking, I think that did really well. I would hope that maybe they could at least do something like Dares of Eternity 2, you know, even if we're not doing a dungeon or whatever, you know, what was sold with that. I would love for something at least like that, just some new activity that's like fun and funny. Again, I don't have any information on what that would be, but that is at least my hope for something to fill the gap. But just the sheer length of that season, I worry about attrition ahead of the final shape, which is already behind in terms of pre-orders. And one big problem is that so many people feel like they got burned with Lightfall. And because I don't think people not everyone gets that Lightfall sold extremely well, like really, really well for a Destiny expansion. And that ultimately backfired because, it was after the Witch Queen and the hype of the following year and building up to, new conflicts and stuff. And then it didn't deliver. And it's so strange because like Lightfall did deliver in a lot of ways. Like Strand ended up being really good. It just seemed really crappy because they integrated it into the campaign. Loadouts are one of the best things that is ever introduced to the game. But that first impression, that really bad campaign, bad new characters, Neomuna and the decision to make everything super tanky there, and that was everyone's first impression, and it never really went away. That's kind of all you get when something like this. And then there's this idea that once you played it, it very much felt like something that was just inserted in the middle of, between the Witch Queen and the final shape that really did not need to exist. And that stuck with it through the whole year. And even though I think the seasons have been pretty okay this year, and Witch was very good, it caused this drop off over time. And I talked a little bit in my article today about revenue, where they're, devs are pushing back against too much monetization, but they're told it's necessary to keep the game afloat. And surprise, a lot of the things that we think suck do sell really well among like Joe Blueberry Destiny player, like event cards or Shadowkeep or like Beyond Light. Things that you think that I've said should be free are still selling somewhat well, so they want to keep all of that on the market. But obviously I think that they've pushed too far in that direction as an attempt to squeeze out more revenue to the point where I believe it can backfire. I don't have any new data on that, but I do think that is a contributing factor as well. And yeah, we'll see what's to come. Another takeaway was just there are no plans to be like, okay, Destiny's going to give up, Bungie's going to give up on Destiny after the final shape in these episodes, and it's just going to coast. Like I didn't hear anything about plans to sunset Destiny development, plans to move everyone to Marathon. Like that was not on the table from what I was hearing. Obviously things change based on the realities of the situation, because I don't think Bungie thought they would be in this position even a year and a half ago. But here we are. But currently, I genuinely still believe, A, they want to crazily deliver on Final Shape, whether that's realistic or not. And B, they do not want to let Destiny go. They know it is an important franchise to both them and the community. I've always thought they wanted to expand it, whether that's other types of games, this long fabled anime series, or, I think Destiny is still ideally their bread and butter, because, there are other projects. They want to be a multi-platform studio or multi-game studio, but there are no guarantees there. Building Marathon from scratch, in a market that is so unpredictable and crowded is difficult. And I don't even know fully what else they're working on, but that is a tall order, and they want to make sure their sure thing is still producing, which this year it is not. So we'll see how it plays out. I am concerned about the context of the final shape, like in which the final shape is arriving, because we have this yawning gap before, we have a hard endpoint of the story after, and then these kind of nebulous episodes. And for me, it's another situation where I don't even know if the quality matters in terms of the long-term health of the game. Like right now, Season of the Witch is great, doesn't seem to be mattering or changing the narrative or turning the game around. And I'm wondering, even with a top-tier expansion, if that's going to be enough. Because keep in mind, Witch Queen, top-tier expansion, and then a year later we had Lightfall and everything fell off a cliff. So you never know what kind of runway you're even producing when you do get a hit. It's got to be consistent. You have to win players back. You have to keep that trust, and that has really been broken with the events of this week, and just kind of ongoing, because there's not really a satisfying answer for anyone. Not this, statement that got written. Like it's unclear when they're even going to communicate to us about the future in a meaningful way. They won't even confirm the delay yet, which is real, but maybe I think they're just working on exact timelines and stuff. But so that's my kind of thoughts, more centered on the final shape itself. But yeah, you can read the other stuff I talk about in the article, management compensation, and the idea that if Sony had not bought Bungie and the game performed this badly, the entire company may have been in jeopardy after Lightfall. And that if they remained independent, that could have been a even bigger disaster. But there's a lot of stuff in there that you can sort out. But so thank you for watching and following me with all my coverage. I'm really not trying to just dunk on Bungie endlessly. I'm really just trying to get the facts and then also kind of offer my own analysis. But yeah, thank you for bearing with me here, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.